Hi guys. I had to mute my computer screen. um, this episode of Life After Trauma with me is going to be about sexual disruption, and that's going to talk about over sexualizing and under sexualizing as well. And this is very specific to interpersonal trauma, but it's not entirely isolated to it. There's this fear of vulnerability and intimacy that's implied in an under sexualized individual, that their fear of being intimate and vulnerable has made it so sex does not seem appealing to them because of this trauma that happened to them in the past. In the sense of over sexualizing, they're like, okay, if I just sexualize it enough, we won't go into the intimacy. We won't go into the vulnerability because we'll be busy doing something else, if you catch my drift. There's also this sense of feeling that they don't deserve closeness, and that's kind of tied into that thing that I already addressed. There's also this sense of self-hatred and projection. A really good book about this is right here. It's called Coming Home to Passion, and it's talking about specific instances where couples that this counselor interacted with had. It's by Ruth Cohn, and she interacted with these couples that were so self-hating that they put their lack of sexual desire or over sexual desire on that other person because they couldn't deal with how they themselves were just self-destructive in their sexual habits and or lack thereof. Uh, Essentially, what has been found to be the root of this disruption is an improperly logged sexual experience that goes unprocessed in the brain, and so repeating that touch, that stimulation, that intimacy and arousal likely will lead them to relive and repeat the traumatic events in that intimate and possibly beautiful moment with a spouse or otherwise. And that is something that is solved over time by processing it and not a moment before. Because if you're living in this place of um, having a sexual experience that's so deeply rooted in fear, how are you going to have a sexual experience that denies that definition of sex and intimacy for you? Because all you've known, or the most memorable thing you have about that intimacy in this case, is a harmful situation, a difficult situation. For me, this showed up in my relationship with my fiance. And when I first started dating him and getting intimate, it was never we're very intentional about being celibate into marriage, but there were things that we would get more physically intimate in terms of like making out and like that physical closeness and staying up to laying down, if that's not too vulgar. And that was something that was really difficult for me because I'd only had bad experience with that, in a sense of like I had a relationship that was very we are physically intimate to achieve arousal and nothing more. It was very detrimental to me. And so I didn't think that that had changed, even though I knew my fiance and I knew that he would never do that to me. I still was stuck in this intimately and sexually disrupted state. Um, And as I began to process that, that is when I began to move forward in that. And that was really beautiful for me, but it didn't come, as I said, a moment before I had processed it. And it's still something I struggle with, but it's easier to struggle with and go through now because my fiance is in on it, but also because I've processed it a lot through counseling and journaling and just bringing it out of the dark and into the light. So yeah, we have 2 more episodes, guys, and then we're all done. So I'll see you next time.